Ooh-wee. Golly, oh gosh. That sucked. So, for many of you avid, like 6 watchers of the channel, you may have noticed that I started Game of Thrones, and it's no longer, like, I stopped talking about it, basically. Like, I made a review for seasons 1 and season 2, and then I just didn't review the rest of it, and it honestly warmed my heart that I had one person comment on my Scream review and asked for the Game of Thrones review, and that honestly made my heart happy, whether that was botted or not. Bless. So, but I did actually want to just make a review all encompassing of Game of Thrones. I haven't been posting as much on YouTube, honestly, because schoolwork got a lot harder and a lot busier. My classes got a lot more demanding, and then same thing with work, right? I'm a personal trainer. I got a lot more clients. And overall, just in general, that also got more demanding, more time consuming, and then trying to balance that in personal relationships. I just haven't had as much time to sit in front of the camera and then yap as much as I want to. But I'm really trying to incorporate time now and make more extra time for that. Anyway, so I finished Game of Thrones. By golly, oh gosh. That was bad. That was disappointing. I have a lot to say about it, and I think especially of the show. Anyway, so I officially finished the show last night, and I do actually have a good channel. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, exam grades are coming out. Anyway, I do have a lot to just say about Game of Thrones in general. What do I rate the show as a whole, including this ending? I'm gonna give it a 7. Now, I have a lot of gross thoughts about the show, and then I also have a lot of thoughts piece by piece. But what I figured I would do is I would kind of pick up basically where I left off. I reviewed seasons 1 and 2. I'll just do small baby reviews of season 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I have most of the review, obviously because I watched this most recently, for seasons 7 and 8. And I'll kind of go there and thoughts on the ending, and then we'll kind of circle back to the general the show as a whole. So essentially, last I reviewed season 2, jumping straight into season 3. I think for the most part, season 3 was pretty solid. I like the direction they took a lot of the characters. I think it was really good. And yeah, it was just really fun and entertaining to watch. Everyone, I finished the show yesterday, and then I went back and was just because I finished it and I was like, man, that was it, And I went back through and I was just thinking about the show as a whole, and I was like, dude, everyone looks so young at the start of this show. That's crazy. Dude, Jon looks like a baby. Anyway, but yeah, so season 3, I like the direction they took Robb's character a lot. Obviously, Red Wedding, R.I.P., but I like Robb's character a lot. I thought that was really cool. I love the progression of Jon Snow with in the North. I really enjoyed. I'm pretty sure season 4 is the Wildling girl with Jon. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I remember season 3 on the whole being pretty solid. I like a lot of what they do with Tyrion. Tyrion becomes one of my favorite characters as a whole. And then obviously, heartbreaking at the end of that season is the Red Wedding, and that was brutal, to say the least. I honestly don't remember feeling that distraught after a character death or deaths plural in a show in a long time. I thought that was really, really well done. This is kind of led into a bit of a complaint for season 4 that I had, but I do really appreciate the willingness to kill a set of characters. But I do think Game of Thrones is pretty unique in the sense that there are so many characters to play around with, but you run the risk when you have a show like this of not necessarily having a main. So they kill off Robb and Catelyn, and those are 2 big players on the board, and obviously Robb's wife at the time, R.I.P. They kill all those characters, and I think what Game of Thrones is really interesting with is you would consider the main character to probably be Jon Snow, Daenerys, or Tyrion. Right, because they're alive the longest and they have some pivotal roles, but it's a weird conundrum that I feel like I face with the show, that there isn't necessarily one main character. It's just a lot of stuff happening to a specific group of characters that manage to stay alive. And I think that when you do, especially so early on, such a mass killing event of a lot of main characters, right? Ned Stark in the first season, that was a big player. A lot of like smaller secondary characters, but like a good portion of them, and then continue that into season 2, and then season 3, where you murder two big, massive players on the board here. I honestly think it creates like, now I think with the rest of the cast, like the main, I would say like 8 characters or 9 characters that continue on in the show, it kind of almost, now I'm no longer suspending disbelief, if that makes sense. Like now, when I'm watching these characters, I feel like these characters have a safety blanket because in the first couple seasons they killed off a lot of main characters, and then this set group of characters lasts for the rest of the show. So it kind of takes that luster out of the sails for me in that regard, right? Like in the beginning, when the Red Wedding happened, the entire time I was like, oh fuck, like okay, really, no one is safe. This is crazy. And then season 4 happens, season 5 happens, season 6 happens, and you're like, okay, so all of these people make it to the end. Like these people are all still alive. Like there's not like, again with Ser Jorah, this is like kind of, not season 3, but just, but like, prime example, Ser Jorah, he could have died like 4 or 5 times over, and it felt like he of all people had plot armor. Like he had, I don't know, like, so he's got plot armor. Obviously, like, love or hate the decision, Jon Snow dying, he had plot armor. He got brought back to life, right? Anyway, moving on. So that's like kind of a complaint that I had. Then season 4 hits, and again, this is where I didn't like season 4 very much at all, actually. I thought season 4 was kind of a slog to get through, because I feel like not enough major happens for me. Like, I know King Joffrey dies in season 4, and I know that Tyrion is put on trial, if I'm remembering right, this is season 4. And then, you have Mountain versus Viper, but, like, you have that one fight scene, and then in season 4, I think you have one of the best episodes of the show, episode 9, where they're defending the wall from the wildlings, and that's really fucking cool. But if you take out that episode, or if you make that episode shorter, right, and it's not an entire like hour and a half dedicated to just that wall fight, I think for the most part, season 4 is pretty forgettable. Like, yeah, I think a couple like necessary, sorry, my cats are playing, like a couple of necessary things happen in the story, right? Obviously, I mean, of course, it's a whole last season, but I think that for the most part, like what happened was more so uneventful than eventful. So I didn't really love season 4. I thought season 4 was okay. I thought that episode was pretty good towards the end, but season 4 for the most part uneventful. I think, and I got a lot of hate for that because everyone says like season 4's peak, but I'm like, it's okay. Like it was okay. Now where I think the show really picks up again are seasons 5, 6, and then the majority of 7. I actually think are really fucking good. So then moving on, we hit season 5. I don't remember if Stannis' army gets. I think Stannis' army gets fucked at like midway through season 6, right? Okay, so jumping back to season 5. Season 5 has one of the best episodes in the show as well. Also contains Jon Snow. We'll get to Jon Snow in a little bit, but that has one of the best like episodes of TV I've seen in a long time. When he goes to save the wildlings and bring them back down south behind the wall, and they fight the army of the dead up there, and it's like actually scary, and like holy shit, like this army is fucking great. Like that was cool. That establishes like a real fucking threat. Like that's awesome, and that was really cool to watch. I love again seeing like the progression of Jon Snow's character, where he's like, not only do I think he's doing it, yeah, obviously he's doing it because he doesn't want the army of the dead to have him, but I think he's doing it because inherently he knows it's right. And that's one of the things I liked about Jon Snow the most. He's like, listen, dude, these people, I was born a bastard. These people were just born above the wall. That doesn't make them less than us. We've been pillaging them and murdering them for hundreds or thousands of years. They've been doing the same to us, whatever the fuck, And I really do. Oh, hey, bud. What are we doing up there? Anyway, so I do like appreciate that from Jon Snow. I think Jon Snow's pretty cool. But the rest of season 5, I'm pretty sure that's the season where Sansa gets to Highgarden. In season 4, King Joffrey dying, I thought was kind of lame. I'm gonna go back to that. I thought King Joffrey dying was lame. I think that actor is incredible. I think he does such a good job of being such a hated fucking character. Like he's a piece of shit in the show, and he like was fine. I get like him dying was like okay. Everyone was like, yo, that was crazy and unexpected, and like yeah, but like for a character like that Like it did come out of nowhere, and I get that that's kind of like the point of Game of Thrones, that shit can just like happen, you know. But also, I feel like it came so much out of nowhere, and I feel like the ramifications weren't that big. Like, yeah, Tyrion got put on trial, but like, what else happened? You know? And then this is another complaint that I have too. I'm pretty sure it's this season, because yeah, Joffrey died, where like they were starting to give Jaime a redemption, and then he became fucking horrible again. Like, he basically borderline rapes Cersei at like with their dead incest child on the pedestal, like right in front of him. Oh, handsome, what are we doing? Um, with like, yeah, like right in front of him, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the, anyway? But so like Jaime, they were giving him an arc, and then I feel like they made him so much worse again, just to like try to redeem him again later. And I was talking to a buddy about this, and he said that that's kind of Jaime's whole character arc, is like he's hopelessly still in love no matter what he does. Like, he'll always fall back, go back to her. And I get that. I do. But also, it comes to a point, because there's a, like, again, in season 7 and season 8, like, Jaime hits some real fucking stride. He finally abandoned Cersei, and he's like, dude, no, like, this shit's wrong. I know what she's doing is wrong. I understand it now. And not only that, he actually manages to like form a bond and a relationship with Brienne of Tarth. And then at the very end, they just butcher his character again, and he runs right back to Cersei to kill himself, basically. What the fuck? Anyway, so I like Jaime. I think that he's an interesting character. A lot of complex shit going on, but like I feel like overall, like they were doing a good service to him overall. But I think there's a couple things that just made him irredeemable, right? Like, he slaughtered tons, and again, he was like fair and kind to a lot of this. Like, when he sieged Highgarden, like, he was nice. He was like, we're gonna make this like quick and easy. Like, I don't want people to suffer a ton. We just have to get shit done so I can get back to like Cersei, right? But then again, it's like he's doing and committing all these atrocities, and he's even aware of them. Like in season 8, I'm pretty sure, when he's having that conversation with Brienne, he's like, yeah, I know what I did was fucked up, but like I didn't give a fuck. And then he goes back to her again, and so you're like, okay, like, irredeemable. Irredeemable. So I don't know. I don't like Jaime. Like, parts of him I liked, and parts of him I thought were like interesting and complex and deep. But at the end, there was no character development. Again, maybe broad complaint of the show. No one really developed. Like, Jaime started to tanked away. Jon started to really like come into this ruler role and develop, and then towards the end, he became such a stupid character. Like, Jon. And what I don't understand is, like, you could make the argument, oh, he fell in love with Daenerys, and so because of that, he's like, I want to devote everything to this relationship. But they didn't give that relationship any real time to form. They were just like madly in love. And two, he loved the Wildling girl in season 4 and 5 or whenever that was. I think it was season 4. And despite that, he still kept his integrity and honor, and he still did what he believed was right. Even if he like lived with the wildlings and learned that they were people, he still did what he believed was right. He knew what Daenerys was doing was inherently wrong, and he knew. Also, Daenerys' character was butchered too. Like, it wasn't even. But anyway, it's like, and then it ends with Jon murdering her like that. Anyway, okay, I'm skipping to the end, but like, unreal. Anyway, so then season 4. That happened. I thought Joffrey's death was too slow. They made Jaime irredeemable again, like right then and there for me. I was like, okay, that's nuts. And then they keep going. And what happens in season 5? Season 5, for the most part, I remember just like a lot of buildup per se. Season 5, I don't remember a ton. I remember season 5 at the end of season 5, that's right, Jon went to go take the wildlings back. He's Lord Commander now, dope as hell. Jon Snow, again, up until all the way through the end of season 6, Jon Snow is like the GOAT. He's just the GOAT. Like, he's awesome. He's just an awesome character. And I'm trying to remember exactly what else happens in season 5, but I don't really remember. What happens in season 5? A ton. I just remember what happened on screen being pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sansa's in Highgarden. Oh, Ramsay. The interesting with like the storyline with Ramsay in the North was pretty solid. Theon. Theon was a big thing I wanted to talk about. I think Theon is someone who was really troubled as a kid and just didn't exactly know how to process his emotions, and then he wanted to earn the respect of his father because that matters so much in this universe, and he just fucked up to get it right. He did, so again, he burned two random kids. One, he was gonna burn his family, and that's fucked up, and then he burned these kids, and that's obviously irritating. Like, that's fucked up. But I really do think he got maybe more than he deserved. I really do. Like, he was beatered, battered, broken, torn apart, like ripped to shreds, scarring all over. And in the end, he was a bitch up until the very fucking end with the Night King. Right? He was still like running away, running away, running away. But then at the very end, he made the choice, and he was like, "No, dude. Like, I gotta stand up for like my family. They're making their stand. I want to stand with them." And I was like, "Okay, Theon, all right." And then he died, and I thought like that was a pretty at least solid end to Theon's character. He finally came back around and was like, "No, that's not who I want to be. I want to be standing by my family," and that was cool. But Theon, the whole shit with Ramsay, I thought was really interesting. Becoming an official Bolton, murdering his father so he can steal the Bolton title. Um, I thought that was interesting. I thought like a lot of season 5 was like just good, like stuff happening. You kind of see where the payoff was coming. Like, I thought it was good. Season 6 I thought was also really really good. I'm pretty sure season 6, if I remember right, that's when Cersei blows up the Sept of Baelor. Oh no, season 5 was her Walk of Atonement, right? And then season 6 she blows that shit up, and then season 7 it focuses mostly on like, yeah, like the preparing for the dead, I want to say. Oh no, yeah. Yeah, season 7, sorry, focuses. Or I honestly I'm kind of lost, but like those are the main things happen. Her blowing up the Sept of Baelor was awesome. I hate Cersei. I've hated Cersei since like day 1. She's just awful. Like she really just is an awful human being. And so like I was waiting for her to die, but I did think her blowing up the Sept was a bold move, and I thought it was really fucking interesting. Like, she was willing to go that far, and then Tommen murdering himself was like, whoa. I was like, dude, holy shit's happening right now, And then wherever we're at, that leads us into season 6, and oh my, Stannis Baratheon was fucking awful in season 6, burning his daughter alive at the stake. And again, I talked to my one of my best buds about this, and he was like, dude, like Stannis in the books is this crazy dope ass strategist, great battle warrior, like he was incredible. And in the like in the show, he just sucks. Like, yeah, he's a good swordsman and he like lives, but like he sucks, dude. He got like, and again, he was being manipulated, but like he was manipulated into like losing everything he's ever had and hoped for. And then right at the pivotal moment when he could decide to like be a good person, he burns his daughter at the stake. And then he just sacrifices his army to Winterfell. Like, what? Dude, horrible. Stannis was awful. There were a couple of scenes where I was like, okay, maybe Stannis could like potentially be like a good character or dude, and that's just not the case at all. Like, Stannis just fucking sucked. Anyway, so then Stannis sucked in season 6, obviously. Season 6 is great. Jon brings the wildlings back from the or it happens at the end of season 5. Because the end of season 6 is Battle of the Bastards. That's right. So then obviously there's the wildlings and shit. And does Jon die at the end of, yeah, he dies at the end of season 6. Right? Let me make sure I have my timeline right. Because like that's like a big deal for me, I suppose. Let me double check this. Um okay, but like what, that's the ninth episode of the 6th season of Game of Thrones. Wait, so when does Jon die? Because he dies before that shit, right? Yeah. But I also had me. Okay, so then maybe Jon dies at the end of season 5. Okay, hold on. All right, yo guys, I'm so sorry. That's the season 5 finale? Fuck! I got my timeline wrong. Shit. Okay. Anyway, Anyway, okay, so timeline wrong. So John dies at the end of season 5, and then season 6 he's reborn. Battle of the Bastards is end of season 6. Okay, this is where, all right, this is where they butcher John's character, or they start to, because this is where Battle of the Bastards happens in season 6. Every move that John has made up until this point has been like strategic, honorable, the right thing to do. He hasn't taken chances. He's been willing to be wrong. He's been open to communicate, and he's genuinely tried to understand shit, okay? And in the Battle of Bastards, they make him look like an idiot. He doesn't listen to Sansa at all, who, granted, like, yeah, wasn't the nicest to him growing up, but, like, she lived with Ramsay. She was there for fucking months, dude. And, like, they basically just made him arrogant and aggressive and impatient. And I understand the sense of urgency he might be feeling, but they made him all of these things. Like, he went from, and granted, the one thing that I really liked about the show up until this, or was, sorry, okay, let me backtrack. The one thing I didn't like about the show a lot was, and I'm pretty sure I complained about this in seasons 1 and 2 when I made those reviews, is that I feel like no one reacts to magic in the show the way that they should. Because, like, at this point, at least it's kind of told that magic up until this point is, like, kind of supposed to be non-existent, doesn't happen anymore, it's not practiced a lot anymore, and you would think that when people fucking see it, like, that they'd be like, yo, that's crazy, what the fuck just happened? And no one does that. Anytime magic happens at all, everyone's like, yeah, man, that was wild. It's crazy. Another Tuesday, right? But the reason I bring this up is because the first time I feel like magic is taken seriously in any capacity, it's Jon Snow's death. Because he dies, people are genuinely grieving, he gets brought back to life, and Jon is like traumatized. Like, Jon is like, dude, what the fuck just happened? Why am I here? He's like, he's pouting, he's brooding, he feels horrible that he's still alive, and he feels betrayed. He got betrayed by the people that are closest to him, people he considered brothers, right? And so I think that's the appropriate reaction, and that was awesome, because that's the first time in the show we see a reaction like that, and it's awesome. I love that. That was incredible. So, again, that I did appreciate. But Battle of the Bastards, I thought, just made Jon look like an idiot. I really, really did. Like, he was arrogant. He wouldn't listen to Sansa. He wouldn't take any advice necessarily. He was just like, all right, we got to do this. We got to go. We got to push forward, push forward, push forward, push forward. And it's like, Jon, you got to take a second, dude. Like, pull back, relax, take a second, listen to the person who lived with him, who knows how he works. She's the one. And then in the end, Jon was just ready to die. He got saved by his army, and then Sansa came in to save him with the army from the Eyrie, not Highgarden, but the Eyrie, the Vale. So, like, that was chill, you know. Might have to cut this shit out. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so I thought Battle of the Bastards made, like, that's kind of the start to the butchering of Jon's character. But I did think overall it was like a fun watch. It was cool to be invested in something like that. Um, um, and then, okay, and so now we're jumping into season 7. So I had a lot to say about the rest, I suppose, but this is where I have most of either my complaints. Obviously, I'm gonna have most of my complaints. What am I talking about? The ending of the show was kind of abysmal, based on what it set up. But I think the start of the butchering of everything was in season 6. I think Battle of Bastards was like chill, but I do think that, like, for the most part, that's when, like, the butchering of a lot of characters comes into place. So I never really talked about Daenerys up until this point either, so maybe I'll cover on Daenerys. I thought Daenerys as a character was, like, really, really. Hold on, my cat is. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit for sure, but that's kind of hype. Okay, anyway, so Daenerys. So I think so. I haven't talked about Daenerys up until this point. I think that until like season 3 or 4, whenever she gets the Unsullied, I think up until that point, Daenerys is like kind of. I just didn't like her. I was like, she. I get that she obviously she's a kid. Horrible shit happened to her. No fucking question. Sorry, hold on, my cat. That was such a big jump, baby. Okay. That was such a big jump. You okay? It's okay. Um, I think Daenerys up until this point was kind of like a stupid character because she just wanted the throne. She hadn't done anything for the throne. Like she was like, it's my birthright. I'm like, I was born to it. Like I deserve it, you know. And in my head, I was like, yeah, okay, I suppose. But in my head, I don't know. I didn't like the way that they made like portrayed her character like that at all, until she ended up in that one city down south that I really don't remember the name of. And then she like killed the slave owners and freed the Unsullied army and then everyone in that city, and they were like, she's like, listen, you're free to go if you don't want to be here, but like follow me if you want to like follow me. And they followed her, and I honestly thought that was awesome. Like I was like, okay, now she's becoming a player on the board, and she's just cool. She's like, no, like I'm standing behind no tyranny. Like yes, I want to rule, but I want to be a good, just ruler, right? Like I want to make the world a better place, and I really appreciated that. And then she kept that sentiment all the way through taking over the city of Marine and you know Slaver's Bay and all that shit. And I like her arc of like trying to learn how to rule basically in this society where she's changed, she's flipped it on its head because it was Slaver's Bay, lots of slaves were there, and she was like, we're not doing that anymore, and she just completely like turned that society upside down. And I think that that was really interesting to see her kind of rule. And I liked that like character development for her too. And then again, I like how she flew out with her dragon. That might be one complaint I do have with the show is they don't show her taming her dragons, like them becoming hers. They're just like attached to her since birth because it's all they know, and then she locks two of them away. Tyrion sets them free, and then they're just like back on her good side. That I thought was kind of poor writing, but I do think like that is a complaint I have with Daenerys is I wish that they showed her taming her dragons, learning how to ride them, like really learning how to like connect with them so that they were bonded with her for life rather than just like oh like she was like in the fire next to him. You know, I didn't like that. So that might be a complaint for sure. But I do think for the most part, like her character was pretty interesting. Like at that point, I liked it. I thought she got great. Again, here comes the ending of Game of Thrones. So season 7, I actually think opens up dope. I really fucking do. The Iron Fleet, awesome, by the way. Both Eurons and Yaras and Theons, incredible. Like the Iron Fleet was just so fucking cool. That was incredible. This is where you can tell the writing quality dips substantially because shit just starts happening like super quickly, and I really appreciate that because I feel like most of up until this point there was build up and setup for these events to occur, right? Like I get that, but like shit just happens. So between season 6 and season 7, I don't know how much time was allotted, but thousands of ships were built. Thousands. Daenerys sailed west during that time period, right? Like, I don't know, like just shit happened, and I don't remember exactly what happened in what order, but I think Jaime being banished to go. Maybe she blew up the Sept of Baelor in season 7 at some point, or it was the end of season 6, I think. But Jaime was forced to leave King's Landing, go take High Garden, and then Daenerys pulled up and was like blowing shit up, and that was awesome. So I really appreciated that. Jaime, or Riverrun maybe is what I'm thinking of. I can't remember. I think they did take High Garden. She blew it up. Like her army's getting split, but then take it out, and she's like slowly losing pieces of her army. And I just thought that direction was weird because they build her up to be this crazy. And then Tyrion, this is another maybe complaint I have with Tyrion. He keeps making these same mistakes, and this is what I mean by towards the end of this show, they butcher characters. And I think everyone who's watched Game of Thrones knows that. But they really butchered these characters in the sense that up until this point, when they've made mistakes or they've thought things out the way that they thought them out, their opinions and thoughts change as they go. Tyrion did not want to have to resort to killing his dad, even though he hated his dad for the way he treated him. Tyrion still loved him. Tyrion was a good person. His dad accused him of murder publicly, was going to publicly execute him, even though he knew he was innocent. And then, I don't know what they did to the woman he was in love with, but then he found the woman he was in love with in his dad's bed and was like heartbroken from everything, and that's why he made the choice to kill his dad. But he's so attached to Cersei, who has hated him since the beginning, and I understand the wanting to keep your siblings alive. Of course, they're family, of course. But she's tried to have him killed at almost every instance possible. I also don't understand, I don't understand some of the writing decisions in this season. Like, when they march down south to show, okay, so let's just start with towards the end of season 5, they capture, or season 5, season 7, episode 5, I'm pretty sure, episode 6, they travel north to steal a dead person and bring them down south. That's the stupidest shit that's been done in this show. The stupidest shit. Okay, had to take a quick little 5. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I had to take a quick little baby lunch break. Where we left off, if I remember right, I just finished talking about Daenerys, and we're at season 7. I want to say, okay. So this is very clearly. Excuse me. This is very clearly where the writing quality starts to dip off. And now I can't remember if the writer stopped writing the show or stopped writing the books up until Jon Snow died or up until the end of season 6, Battle of the Bastards. I don't actually remember where that directional shift takes place. But all I know is that the writers in seasons of the show, season 7 and 8, went along without the books. At least for 7 and 8, that's what I recall. And it fucking shows. Yeah, I think overall, it wasn't a good ending. In the slightest. It really wasn't. So in season 7, I think I briefly touched upon this before I took my 5. By 5, it was more like a 30-minute break. I was eating. I'm trying to think. I thought the first couple episodes of season 5 were great. From what I remember, Jaime was still doing his thing. Daenerys came in guns blazing, blowing shit up at one point. It was great until, that's right, they decided, I got where I'm at, to travel north to abduct the dead guy and bring that dead person to the rest of the realm to convince them that the threat is real. And that, to me, is dumb as hell. Because I'm as from a writing perspective, because in my head, it kind of makes sense that the characters would be okay, well, we have to convince them. They very clearly don't think that this shit is real. We got to convince them. The best way to convince someone is to show them that this thing is real, that the dead is real, that they are marching on the wall as we speak. But okay. But the characters are gonna march up north of the wall and intercept a small party of dead people when one group of dead people the Night King controls them all. So if one group of them is getting attacked or gets taken hostage, all the dead people are going to know, and then it's a group of 10 dudes against an army of the dead, and that's exactly what happened. And this is what I mean, in this season, they forgot the rules that they've established in the other seasons. Shit used to take fucking time to happen. So the trek out there to get to find the dead people was a 3-day excursion of walking day in, day out in blizzards, snowstorms, getting attacked by bears and shit. 3 straight days of traveling to go out there to find the dead, like to find the army of the dead so they can abduct one and walk back, which, by the way, have no idea how they plan on getting back right in the first place. So they take 3 days out, they intercept one, they manage to capture one, but then the rest of the dead follows them to this lake, and they get stuck on this like frozen lake in the middle of it on this tiny piece of land, and the dead people are just waiting for the lake to freeze back over before, charging and killing the rest of the gang, including Jon Snow and Tormund and a couple other people like Sir Beric, I think is his name, and then the dude that brought him back to life, the Hound, is now here, which I also kind of like the Hound's little arc there. Again, they ruin that as well. They ruin the Hound's arc as well because they just make him a suicidal maniac. And then, but yeah, and so like two main big issues arise from this situation. One, aside from it being like a dumb idea in the first place, one, they tell Gendry to sprint back to the wall to send a raven to Daenerys to come pick them up, right? And you think about it, they were just stuck on that frozen lake overnight. Okay, so 1 day passes. So he made a 3-day excursion. Gendry made that into a multiple hour run. Raven, which, by the way, took them a little while to get to the fucking coastline, sent a raven to Daenerys for Daenerys to fly her dragon all the way up to come get them by the time the lake froze over that next morning. No. Even if Gendry was running all day, every day for 3 days straight, in those conditions, no fucking shot he makes it that far in a span of 8 hours. No, right? It's just so stupid in the first place, right then and there. That should not have happened at all. And then the other dumb thing about that is, based on the size of that lake, it makes no sense why the dead just didn't rush the lake in the ice anyway. Like, why? Because they waited all night for it to freeze over. The Night King just stood there and watched him, by the way. Didn't, huck a spear at him. Didn't, kill him. They all had extreme plot armor. The dead, there's no reason why they shouldn't have just stammered on top of each other just to get to the middle to kill him and take him, And again, the writing decision there was so that the army of the dead could have the dragon, because again, Daenerys pulls up with, I think, all 3 of her dragons, if I remember right, or maybe just 2 of them, and the Night King kills one of them and takes it for himself, so he's got a dragon, and all right, I guess, and then they get this dead body, they end up, oh yeah, and then Jon basically ends up falling into the, how does this, yeah, and then Jon ends up being left behind, he falls into the lake, and then he gets up out of the lake, as all of the dead have already basically walked away, he makes noise, the army of the dead turn back at him, and then Benjen shows up to save him again, brings him to the wall, he's warmed up again, and then he and Daenerys are, in love. And it's okay, one, I'm a good romance guy. I low-key like Daenerys and Jon being together. I feel like their characters from the start paired really, really fucking well together. But then they butchered them both. So, anyway, and then I think the end of season 7 where they travel all the way down to King's Landing, talk to Cersei, show everyone that the dead are real, and Cersei just does not give a shit. Euron decides to split as a fake, right? Which, yeah, I kind of understand, but even still, it's I just think what was dumb to me is they were all down there in King's Landing, all Cersei's enemies, and I guess it kind of makes sense to let them go fight the dead people because they are real. But then at one point in season 8, they travel back to King's Landing. Again, at this point, fast travel's enabled, so they're just, teleporting from place to place. They travel back to King's Landing, and they behead Missandei in front of Daenerys, Tyrion, and Grey Worm, and then they just walk away. Cersei intends to slaughter Daenerys and her whole army, and only a small chunk of them are right outside King's Landing. She could have killed them all right then and there, either taken them hostage, killed them, done whatever she wanted with everybody right then and there, because they're outside of her home fucking turf. And they just let them go back north. And again, fast travel's enabled, and they're just back up north. I don't understand. Anyway, so but like that's a little deeper into season 8, but start of season 8, it's only 6 episodes. Okay. The first like 2 or 3 episodes of season 8 are fucking awesome. Okay, how dark and gloomy everything is and how sinister it feels. Everyone's preparing for the army of the dead. They all think and believe they're going to die fighting, and it's so real, and every character I think in these moments shines in their role really fucking well, except for Jon Snow. Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy. So Jon learns that he's actually a Targaryen, which, okay, sure. And I understand maybe his decision to tell Sansa and Arya, but the one person that he's supposed to love and care about the most is begging him not to do that, because if there's any challenge to the throne, no matter what happens, she's not going to get it. She won't get it. And he knows that she knows it's all that she cares about, right? She wants that throne. She wants Jon to rule with her, like be in love with her, but like she wants the throne. That's what she wanted the whole time. And Jon tells them anyway. And then also too, Jon is like brooding the entire time, and he's not thinking like a master strategist. He's just letting everyone else come in and do the work for him, you know? And he's not even like free thinking for himself anymore. He's just like, yeah, you're my queen. And in my head, it's like, Jon, I get you're in love, but when you were in love before with I don't remember her name, but she was a cool character. When you were in love with her, you were still like, he was still him. He was still like the super like honorable dude who did it and believed what he thought was right in his gut. And it's like he's just completely blatantly ignoring his gut now in this last season, and he's become a side character. Like, he's just this dude who brought Daenerys back, and like that's it. He's completely out of the question, right? And Sansa and Arya could have had a much fucking cooler arc. Same with Sansa, and they just write them off. They're basically non-existent the moment the dead is killed. Okay? But anyway, those are my complaints for that. But when it comes to the actual army of the dead and that fight scene and leading up to that, where it's all dark and gloomy, every single person, like this ragtag group of people that are unlikely friends here fighting against a common enemy, with Jaime, Davos, Brienne of Tarth, Podrick, Tyrion. Who else was in that fire, like that circle? I can't remember, but that group of people, that was so entertaining to watch, and that was such a cool moment where like even Jaime now is like, again, they ruin his character, they keep doing this will they won't they with him, and I feel like I was like really excited at the end here, because I was like, oh my god, like Jaime, he's here, he's like, no, Cersei's wrong, I want to fight this, I want to be standing with the living, like I want to do the right thing. And so he comes up north, like I feel like he and Brienne had really good chemistry, and they throw that out the window, and like, but he was right then and there. It was awesome, and I loved so much of that sequence. I loved probably 95% of the whole army of the dead. That was fucking incredible. Like, that might be the best episode of the show, for sure. When all the dead are, like, marching, the Dothraki run forward to the dead, like, a quarter of them make it back, maybe. They're lighting fires and shit. They're like killing and slaughtering people over and over again. Like, and it's a whole like straight hour and 30 minutes of like, holy fuck. And I love how overwhelming it feels for some of those characters. Like, that's such a deep and like that's such a especially because they were leading up to this for so long, 8 seasons, you know. Like, that was such a really intense portray of how dire the situation is. It's just so sad that the shit ends the way it did, because again, like, you have an enemy like this, of this magnitude, of this size, and Winterfell is what held it down. Cool, but like, anyway, but I loved most of what they did. I loved how Ser Jorah finally died. Like, they raised stakes, but they didn't kill anyone else. They didn't kill the Hound there. They didn't really commit to a lot of shit. They did kill the Sir Beric guy, I think is his name. And they had like a lot, like they showed a lot of characters dying, but not necessarily a lot of main characters. Like again, Brianna Tarth was chill, Jamie was chill, Arya obviously ended the thing. Lady Missandra, her name, the red woman, she turned to dust. Um, if I remember right, one of the dragons died in this fight. If I remember correctly, one of them died. Theon died. Like, yeah, there were some characters, but I do feel like for all of that, there should have been more loss. Like that really, for the most part, the core gang was unscathed, which whatever. And then there's the issue of, is that a spider or is it just a hair? I hope it's just a hair. But then there's the issue of the fact that Arya killed the Night King. And I'm not mad that Arya killed the Night King. She's dope as shit. Her ninja arc was cool as fuck. But that was really, really underwhelming the way that it happened. Like, that's some cheap shit. Like, that is some cheap shit. This, like, all powerful fucking beast. She just runs up behind him and he just grabs her with one hand and she drops the knife and stabs. Like, yeah, I kind of get it, but he shattered like glass instantly and the whole army of the dead just dropped. All right. And then Jon Snow barely does a thing in this fight. I feel like, yeah, he's riding around on a dragon. Like, is that kind of cool? I suppose. But he was supposed to be like the leader of this army to fight against the dead, and he just isn't. He's off with Daenerys most of the time, neglecting any of the shit that he signed. And again, he didn't really sign up for this, but he also did. Anyway, I just feel like that's the really big downfall of his character. But I do think those episodes, barring that, like the very end where the Night King dies, I think that was incredible. Like those, I think the 2 episodes leading up to it, or the episode leading up to it, and then the actual like dead fight, incredible. Some of the best the show has to offer. And then after that is where it goes downhill really quickly. So I do not necessarily. I think that again because they go back down south to get Missandei because Euron Greyjoy captured her and brought her back or whatever, however that happened. Or yeah, they raided the shores and they captured her. And so then obviously the gang north just teleports south because they can now. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, and then they murder Missandei in front of, Daenerys, Tyrion, and Grey Worm, and then they just walk away. Why? At this point, the army of the dead has been dealt with. Daenerys has, like, little to no army left, and you're telling me that Cersei is just like, yeah, alright, you can leave. We're gonna kill your friend in front of you. Let you plot your revenge. And then you can just leave. Like, I just don't, narratively, I don't understand. And again, they're fucking teleporting at this point. And then Jon, again, just his character is completely butchered at this point because he's not, like, standing up for anything or fighting for anything anymore. He's just like, yeah, like, Daenerys is doing her thing. She's my queen, And he's like, yo, can you please not tell anybody that, like, I'm actually Targaryen? And the first thing that Sansa and Arya do is tell people that he's a Targaryen. Like, guys, come on. Like, again, lame as fuck. Because they don't like Daenerys, but they never ever had any good conversations with Daenerys at all. Like, there just was no good dialogue in this last the last season. And then, now this is okay. So 2 things I want to talk about next. Tyrion letting Jaime out because he didn't want to see him die, or he wanted to get Cersei. Like, Jaime went back into King's Landing to get Cersei and come back out. It was a cool fight with Euron, and then obviously that ended up really, he killed Euron, but he was basically dead in the process, right? And then, him and Cersei died. But then again, like, this whole season's butchering characters, and they butchered Jaime again. They gave him like some kind of redemption here. He fought for the North. He was like, no, Cersei's wrong. And then at the end, he was like, no, I'm still helplessly in love. And I understand that as a character, I suppose. But I also just think it's so fucking stupid. Like, dude, unbelievable. And then we'll get to Jon and Daenerys a little bit more. Well, it's like their relationship more, but I would say so. Then next, obviously Tyrion doesn't get developed at all because he just keeps making the same mistakes. He keeps free like, and again, obviously he loves Jaime, but he hates Cersei. He knows how dangerous Cersei is, and he like 2 times in a row he's like, let's not kill Cersei. It's like, dude, you murdered your father, and yeah, your father was awful, dude. Cersei blew up part of King's Landing and killed who knows how many fucking people in the process, right? Like she's just as horrible as their dad. You know that. You preach that. Like why are you trying to save her anyway? So Tyrion just keeps making the same mistakes, and I do love Tyrion, but I'm like, dude, come on now. What are we doing? Like, but then comes the decision of Jon to basically not talk to Daenerys at all a lot, and then for Daenerys to burn down King's Landing. And while I do think that episode was just incredible to watch because it looked really good, it was super intense, you could feel how overwhelming all that shit was for a lot of these characters and how like in the moment they were, and that was really incredible to watch. Narratively, what the fuck? Like again, Daenerys' her whole thing was that she didn't want to rule by fear. Like, she was so dead set on that. And it wasn't like they set up this thing and they showed you these traits throughout the show. Throughout the show, she's like, I have to, like, rule with fear because that's all I know. But she keeps trusting her advisors, and all of her advisors are like, no, you got to do this a different way. And she's like, I want to do this a different way. And she does. She does. And then, like, all of a sudden, right at the end, when she knows that she could just go kill Cersei and, like, take King's Landing and seize it, she just made the call because she felt like Jon Snow had more say than her. And so she kills 1,000,000 people? Like, again, butchering her character. Like, since when? Like, you could argue, like, I could see the whole argument of, yeah, there's Targaryen blood in her. Like, she's gonna do what she's gonna do. But she's fought the entirety of the 7 seasons previously. Like, that's never come up once. Like, just straight genocide. She's been like, look, like, I don't want to kill everybody. She's like, even the slave owners, like, I want to give them a fucking chance, you know? Like, and I was like, blown away by that decision. And then you could tell that Grey Worm just wanted revenge. And his character, I get. Like him being just bloodthirsty and blood hungry because he watched the way like the person he loved die in front of him. Yeah, like that's cool. I get it. Like I'm down for that. But I think like that could have been a really fucking imagine if the show like an interesting dynamic to where Miss Sunday there's a way that she dies in front of him that's not stupid as fuck with fast travel and them going back down to King's Landing. But imagine she dies in front of him like in that battle, and then Grey Worm is like bloodlusted and wants to kill like because he's finally experiencing real love for the first time in his whole life because he's never had that before. And Daenerys is like, no, we can't. And then friction arises between the two of them. That could have been such an interesting dynamic, and they just didn't, just out the window because the writers are dumb as shit. And then like, oh man, dude. Okay, so then and then that decision by Daenerys to me is still like I think the episode was really cool, but I don't think that it was narratively the right call. And then the big one for me personally, the last episode, Jon killing Daenerys. This to me was crazy because like a, Jon's character has been butchered at this point. Like he is no longer like Jon. He has simply just been Daenerys's like, you know, worshiper basically. And so he's no longer Jon anymore. He's not like being a king. He's just reduced himself to, yeah, like Daenerys is my queen. Like that's most of his dialogue in this last season. That's most of what he says. And so to see a character that like had done something no character in this universe had done before, when he was like extended humanity to these wildlings and brought them back beyond the wall for safety, yeah, to like not let the Night King have them, but to save their lives, like their people, you know, to save their lives. He did something he'd never done before. He did something that got him killed and brought back, and he was like, you know, hated for it, but he knew it was the right thing to do. For him to just sit there and then let Daenerys do what she did, and then after the fact realize he's like, oh my god, like we made a mistake, but then for him to go and like tell her that he loves her and that she'll always be his queen right before he murders her, to me is so out of character for Jon and Tyrion, because Tyrion was like, you know what you have to do, and I'm like, dude, you didn't do that at all when it came to your sister, you know. And like now you're like, after seeing Varys get burnt, like, and again, burning Varys was, it's just that, what a fuck ass way to end a show. Part of my language, but what a stupid way to end the show. Like, for Jon to be like, oh my god, not even have any real dialogue with her. He's not like, he's like, yeah, he's asking some questions, like, what about the people who just believe they're right that aren't us? And she's like, well, they don't get to choose. And like, that is crazy. You know, it does kind of, show a little bit of her nature, but that wasn't her nature the whole time. Like, I don't know, we're just so out of character, in my opinion. Especially Jon stabbing her in a vulnerable moment like that. Jon never would have done that. The Jon that, like, the rest of the show, Jon would have walked away from her. He would have been like, listen, I do love you, but what you've just done is unforgivable. I cannot be a part of this anymore. Like, if you decide to rule justly, but like, I can't do this anymore. Like, he wouldn't just murder her like that. Like, that's not what he would do. So they ruin his character. All of Daenerys' buildup for so long gone, and then the Iron Throne being melted by the dragon and the dragon flying off. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about that. And then those final scenes where like Jon goes back to the fucking wall. Are we serious? And then Sansa being queen of the North, which, yeah, I'm down for. Like, I think, like, I'm down for. But again, like, her character was just kind of written off towards the end there. Like, she didn't get a ton of screen time. Same with Arya. Arya could have had, like, a really fucking cool arc. And then I feel like she was also just kind of written off. Jaime and Cersei, the way they died was kind of unsatisfying, especially after everything Cersei did, you know? Like, just bricks and mortar took her out. You know, the Hound basically killing himself to fight his brother. Again, undoes the character redemption that he was on, right? He was on this path of like, maybe I can still do more good in my life, and then it gets thrown away because he's like, oh, the Hound is in King's Landing, like, all right, I'll go kill him. It's like, dude, what? And then I think the very end where they choose Bran to be king because of all the memories he has, and like, all right, I guess. All right, like, okay, I suppose. And like, being democratic, I suppose. Like, yeah, obviously, like, it's what you want to work towards, but like, all right, I guess. I'm also sad that it's over because like, I wasn't heavily invested in it for like the last 2 months. Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough watch. Um, yeah, that's basically mostly what I think about that. Like, couple crazy decisions here and there that I really don't understand. That I really just don't understand. Some cool episodes in there for sure. Some stuff that I thought wasn't smart. Like, yeah, that was tough. That was a tough one. That was just a really disappointing. Now, there are a couple things that I want to just say in general about thinking about this ending, because I do hear that this is like the worst ending of all time, is what I hear. Like, this is the most disappointing, ridiculous ending I've ever seen, like, people have ever seen. And I'm gonna say something that might be a little bit crazy. Like, is anytime any show ends bad, they're like, compare it to Game of Thrones, and they're like, was this a Game of Thrones level ending? And everyone's like, no, because Game of Thrones was the worst thing ever. Honestly, I don't think this ending was that abysmal. Like, I know I just hated on that shit, of course. Like, it was trash. Like, it was a bad ending. Like, you can very clearly tell the writers just wanted to be done with the project so they could do their next shit. Like, you can tell, right? Like, the ending was, like, it was bad. It was brutal. Like, they butchered, like, great characters, like, that is unfat. Like, it's stupid. But from the lens that I'm watching it through, like, I can imagine why people talk about it the way that they do. Imagine you're watching this shit, like Stranger Things. Imagine you're watching this shit as it's coming out for the first time, and year after year there are watch parties. The whole internet that is invested in this one form, this one show, popular culture and media, and that happens all the fucking time, right? And everyone is so invested in this show then for it to be on air and everyone who's been watching the show for 8 years at this point gets this is the ending, I see why it gets the bad rap that it does. Because it is atrocious. Like, it's atrocious. Like, story-wise, it's just so bad compared to the shit that came before it, you know? So I get why people are like, yeah, this is, like, the worst show I've ever seen, like, ending-wise. Like, that sucked. That was abysmal. Because it really is not great. Like, I was just ranting for almost 30 minutes about how bad that shit was. Like, it wasn't great, okay? Don't get me wrong. But I do think it's the show as a whole is blown a bit out of proportion. I think for the most part, I do believe Game of Thrones is overrated. And that's kind of a hot take. I know. But I think it's really good. I think it's strong. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's so fun. The set pieces are cool. The actors are all great in their roles, you know. But I think, like, some of the rules keep changing as you go along. I think narratively some stuff doesn't make sense because it was based off the books and the books never finished, but the show did. There wasn't a really clear main protagonist, and the dead was supposed to be like the big antagonist, but again, the way that played out, like, Cersei was the main antagonist, but they flip-flopped, and I feel like there wasn't clear progression and development of these characters in a super duper meaningful, like, I don't think that as necessarily a piece of media there's not as much that you're getting that you could. Like, some characters grow and develop, yeah, but a lot of characters just do the same shit over and over and over again. We get that character trait, but then how are you supposed to latch on to certain characters if you never see any of them grow and develop? Like, Jon was developed really well at the start because he was someone he obviously came from, highborn, but he was a bastard. He wasn't going to inherit anything, right? But he felt outcasted his whole life. He went to the wall. He was treated like shit, but he grew into this leadership role because he believed that he had to do what was right. Because his dad was like, dude, you have to do what was right, like, above all else. Like, follow your gut, trust your heart, but do the right thing. And he learned how to do that, and he became a ruler doing that. He became good at prioritizing the right things. That's character development, right? Daenerys went from being really, really, really entitled to understanding what it means to rule, what she wants to be as a ruler, and understanding, like, the responsibilities and the stress that comes with that, and like what she has to do and how she has to fill out this role. It's not just about having power and dragons, it's about being just and fair and learning, ignore the line, but like learning who you're supposed to be, you know? And like, so there's some growth across some major characters here, but like Tyrion doesn't grow all that much at the end at all. And again, I'm excluding the butchering at the end because, like, ignore that, right? It doesn't grow all that much. Neither does Cersei. Their positions change, but they don't grow. Arya grows a lot, but then she gets written off. I feel like Sansa grows a good bit, but then written off. And so it's like you have all this shit going on, but I feel like no one was really changing in a meaningful way that you can almost connect with, because there's so many things happening at the same time that, like, it's hard to focus and latch on to one. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I think as a cultural phenomenon, like, if you were there watching it as the shit came out, I can't imagine how fucking sick that had to have been. That's how I feel about fucking Demon Slayer, okay? When I was there watching the Entertainment District fight for the first time, watching the shit come out with the internet, and we were all talking about it, man, that was, like, fucking incredible. So, like, I can understand that a show of this magnitude, of this much effort and care that was into these set designs, the actor choices, the casting, same thing, but, like, clothing, like, the way, the mannerisms of the people, and, like, the way they set up, and kind of the world building going on, it's incredible. I can see why it's, like, hailed as one of the best shows of all time, but I do think, like, watching it now with the lens of just, it's a show that I'm binge watching, I thought it was pretty good. Like, it was a show that did have me on the edge of my seat at times, but a lot of shows can do that. Like, I do think it's pretty good. I just don't think it's, like, the best of the best of the best that, people have to offer, because some people, frankly, are just better show writers, But, like, I'm not trying to dog the show. I think it's incredible. I just don't think it's, like, this, I don't know. I think it's great, but I do think it is slightly overrated, especially that ending being the worst ending of a show of all time. I think narratively, perchance, maybe you could argue that. I do still think, now having seen them both, the ending to How I Met Your Mother is worse. Pretty confidently I can say that. That was abysmal. That was bad. So that's, like, if you're ever curious and you haven't seen one or the other, How I Met Your Mother is phenomenal until the literal last episode. They ruin everything in the last episode. I think Game of Thrones is more of like a slow ruin. The writing just slowly got worse. Writers wanted to finish the show. Didn't exactly know how to wrap everything up because they didn't even want to take the time to wrap everything up the right way. So it's one of those things where it feels rushed. It feels incomplete because the writers just wanted it over with, kind of like Stranger Things. Like Stranger Things has a really bad ending. The first 4 seasons are incredible, but then by that 5th season, you could very much tell that the writers didn't care about the property as much anymore. Like in interviews, they said, hopefully in a couple years they're doing something else. They don't want to do Stranger Things anymore. They would just like to put the safest ending out there so they can move on and do something else, and I think the same thing is true for Game of Thrones. They just didn't really exactly have a clue what to do because they were going off of someone else's material. Figured, let's end this shit now so we can start working on other projects, and that just retroactively damaged the whole property and their chances of another project, So, yeah. I don't know. All in all to say, I did really enjoy Game of Thrones. I think I gave it a 7 earlier. I'm going to bump it up to an 8 because there are a couple of episodes and there were definitely moments in the show where I really was like, oh my fucking God, this is crazy. But I think obviously the ending and then season 4 kind of dragged it down a little bit for me. But I did love Game of Thrones. That was an experience. I loved it. It was incredible. A lot of the characters are fun. I don't know if I'll ever see a show quite like it again. There's a lot of shows out there, but it really was fun and entertaining. And I do feel like I gained a lot from watching that show. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a little bit overhailed as the greatest show of all time, barring the ending. But I do understand why people have that perspective and opinion. I just watching it under different circumstances, I don't feel the same way, But I do think it's incredible. I think no matter what, despite that ending, I think it's 100% worth the watch. Should have set a spoiler warning at the beginning. But I did really love and enjoy that show. It was a lot of fun. So 8 out of 10 is probably my final rating for Game of Thrones. I'm sure I'll come back and rewatch it in the next little bit. I think next, I don't know what I'm going to watch next. I just know I have a couple of big stuff on my list. I want to watch Shrinking. I want to watch Severance, I believe what it's called. I want to watch one more Apple TV, but Pluribus. I want to watch that too. I want to watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I want to watch House of the Dragon, absolutely. But I will say it was fun to be immersed in that universe, and I'm definitely sad that it's over. But anyway, that's about it. See ya.